Everybody, it's Leroy from Leroy Gaming. I am back with another Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous build for you guys. You may have recently seen my Mythic Gold Dragon build, and you probably thought, gee, Leroy, that's probably all you're going to do with Golden Dragons. But boy, would you be wrong. So I had to think, what would happen if a nomadic tribal orc that is completely high out of his mind on mutagens just happened to be blessed by the dragons? Well, ladies and gentlemen, the end result is pure feral combat. It is my feral golden dragon build. Get ready for it. Welcome to the jungle, baby. You're gonna die. All right, guys, before we jump into the content of this video, just want to kind of give you information on how my videos flow if you're new to my guides. I will be breaking everything up in sections. Check out the timestamps. We will be looking at levels 1 through 20 of progression. We're also going to be looking mythic levels 1 through 10 as well, including the full dragon transformation. Now, for each section that we look at, we're going to go ahead and have a spreadsheet. So you're going to see the spreadsheet within the video. Also in the description below, I am going to provide you with a link to my spreadsheet so you can access that. If you are accessing that spreadsheet there, do make sure to drop a like before you stop watching this video. Leave me a comment letting me know that you appreciate and you like those spreadsheets. If you are finding them helpful, that should hopefully help you out. Now, if you're somebody that needs a little extra help, that wants a little more understanding, I do a full-on walkthrough of every level explaining why I pick everything, what each feature does. So if you want that full-on experience, go ahead and watch this entire video. That would be awesome. Or jump to whichever section suits you the most at any given time. So again, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let's jump into it and take a look at this absolutely amazing brutal build that's going to have over 54 strength, over 50 AC. It's just going to tear things up. Really, really fun. And what's also great is you're going to be able to start turning into dragons way, way earlier than before you get your mythic dragon form. So let's take a look. All right, we'll go ahead and begin by looking and having a quick overview over the spreadsheet that you can find linked in the description below as well. First, we'll take a look at the leveling pathway here. So what's nice about this build in particular is that we're actually going to go full 20 levels in the Metamorph, which is an archetype of the Alchemist, mainly because we want to make sure we get that true mutagen at level 20. When you're looking at here, you're going to see a couple important elements. You're going to see the stats you want to start with here: 16, 14, 14, 17, 12, and 7 in order as they're listed when you level up. And then you're going to be putting 1 point in intelligence, the rest in strength. The key spells are just some of the spells that I highlighted that you'll likely potentially use. There's other options that you could take, but there's a good chance they're not going to be thematically fitting for what you're going for. And towards the end, some of the higher level spells actually don't really fit that well. You'll notice I'll put like I bite ? For you there. Pick whatever you want, but chances are, all the transforming spells that you have at that level will not be necessary as you'll be turning into a dragon by then. Skill-wise, I list here all the skills you're going to put points into. With the amount of intelligence you have, you're going to have enough points to have all these maxed out for the most part, except there will be levels where you have one too few skill points. In those cases, your lowest priority skill is Knowledge World. So make sure you get all the other ones always maxed out, and then Knowledge World can be last. And then finally, as far as the initial setup, you're going to be a tribal half-orc with a hermit wanderer background. This is part thematically, but also you're going to get some nice little resistance bonuses. And deity doesn't really matter, but Wrath will kind of fit the theme. You're going to be neutral good. That's the same alignment as the Golden Dragon at higher levels. Now we'll go ahead and take a look at these one by one, level by level for those that want a full-on walkthrough. All right, so beginning at level 1, there's a couple key choices we're going to make for the Metamorph class. We are going to go half orc with the tribal racial heritage. So this is going to have us lose orc ferocity and keen senses, but get +1 luck bonus to all saving throws, which is quite nice, and a +2 racial bonus on lore nature checks. And then the alignment should be neutral good. It doesn't have to be, but that's kind of the alignment of the dragon, the golden dragon, so that'll help out. When it comes to your level 1 stats, you're going to want to have 16 strength, 14 dexterity. You're going to have another 14 constitution. Your intelligence is going to actually start at 17. Then you're going to have 12 wisdom, and then you're going to dump stat your charisma down to 7. Now, when it comes to skills, you're going to have a ton of skill points. You're going to be able to have this character do a lot of the checks for you. So what's nice is you're going to be able to max out trickery, stealth, perception, knowledge arcana, lore nature, and knowledge world. You will notice I mentioned it said low priority here. That's only because early on in the levels, you're going to have 1 or 2 scenarios where you're not going to have enough points for all of them. I don't know why. It's just how the intelligence works until you bump your intelligence up to 18. Now you're going to have a ton of skill points because you're going to start with 17 int and then it's going to bump up to 18 pretty quickly. So by the end of the game, you're going to be able to have no problem maxing out trickery, stealth, perception, knowledge arcana, knowledge world, and lore nature. You're going to be able to do a lot of the different checks by yourself and not needing a dedicated kind of rogue, for example. Now, the spells I recommend to you guys are going to kind of help you feed into that morphing playstyle. It's a lot of buffs, not very many offensive spells. So at first level, you're picking up Enlarged Person, Shield, and also Cure Light Wounds. So some defensive and some buffing there. And at level 1, you get access to the main feature of this class, and that's going to be the mutagen. That's going to really help provide yet another stacking buff for your golden dragon when you level up towards max level. And the final major feature at level 1 is the mutagen. So this is going to be getting leveled up and powered up as you go up through levels, and it's going to provide you with a really nice stacking buff that's going to help supercharge your feral dragon later on. And so we're going to be running the strength one, even though you do get access to 3 different ones. Now for level 2, it's pretty straightforward. We're going to be updating your mutagen, and you're going to pick the feral mutagen. It's going to give you 2 claw attacks and a bite attack. And then it's going to be a prerequisite for the feral wings update that we're going to have at a later level. Level 3 sees us picking up the Ironhide feat. This is one of the things that's unique to orcs or the half orcs. You get +1 natural armor bonus to AC, and the stacks of all the other natural armor bonuses. At level 4, you're gonna enhance potions. So whenever you drink potions, it's gonna basically help you get the most out of potions. They're going to be equal to your class level as opposed to the actual potion level. So this should increase their effectiveness, which is a nice little buff. The stat point that you get at this level, we are gonna put into intelligence, and that's going to help us get a natural 18. And for the spell at this level, is we're going to pick up Bull Strength. So it's going to give you a nice +4 enhancement buff to Strength, which is going to help you with your hit rating and your attack rating during the early levels. At level 5, we're going to pick up Iron Will to give you +2 bonus to your will saves. This is your weakest save throughout the game. So we want to get this bumped up so we don't lose control of our character. And we will also pick up the spell Bark Skin, and this is going to mainly help increase our natural armor class, especially before we get any fancy amulets that are going to give us non-stacking armor class options. At level 6, we're going to get a really important update to our mutagen. These are the feral wings, and they're basically going to give us a +3 dodge bonus to armor class against melee attacks in particular, and immunity to difficult terrain. So this is kind of supposed to simulate us floating or flying, even though there's no graphic for it. But it's a very nice buff. For spells, we're going to continue with the utility buff spells and pick up Cat's Grace, which is going to give us +4 to our dexterity, which can also be very useful. At level 7, we're going to finally pick up Power Attack. So this is going to help us scale our melee damage. And for spells, we're going to pick up Heroism. So this is a great, pretty long-lasting buff, giving us morale bonuses, which stacks of enhancement bonuses and all the other types of bonuses. To attack, roll savings, save rolls, and skill checks. So this is just a universally very nice buff. At level 8, we're going to start pumping our strength. And so moving forward, that's all we're going to be pumping when it comes to our stat buffs. We're also going to get Extend Potion. So this basically makes any potions that have a duration last twice as much, especially on higher difficulty levels. Utilizing potions effectively can mean the difference between surviving and dying. So this is actually a quite functional pickup. And then for spells, we're going to pick up Haste. Now, this is one of the best spells in the game. It's AoE. It's going to help you and your allies. It's going to give you an extra attack. It's going to give you extra AC and reflex save bonuses. The only downside to this is that it only lasts 1 round per level. That's why we picked up Heroism first, so you can have that up constantly. But otherwise, this is great, and also it makes you move faster. Now on my character here, I had mixed it up, but on the spreadsheet, it is correct. So at level 9, we're actually going to pick up Outflank. Everything should have been shifted down once, and this should be at level 9. So this is a phenomenal feat, a teamwork feat. So this is a phenomenal teamwork feat that I recommend having on all companions and pets. Just a really, really good bonus that is going to qualify constantly for any melee characters at the very least. And for spells, we're going to pick up Thorn Body. This is actually a pretty cool spell. You may not always use it because you may not have enough spell slots for it, but it's going to make it so that when enemies attack you, they're going to take damage. And also your natural attacks are going to do more damage. So when you start transforming into other creatures, this is going to be a nice offensive buff too. At level 10, we're going to take the Spontaneous Healing Discovery. It's not that powerful, but it's the best option for our build here. So it's some extra free healing. Can't go wrong with that. And for our spell here, I actually pick up Cure Critical Wound. So this is our main kind of healing spell. It's nice and strong enough to be utilized in an emergency. But you will notice that we don't pick up that many healing spells. We have this, and it's not till later when we actually pick up the heal spell that we're going to get another kind of really powerful and quick heal spell. At 11, we're going to pick Improved Iron Will. And again, as I mentioned earlier, everything got kind of shifted over. So it's here showing at 9, but it is 11 on the spreadsheet. So this is going to, again, buff our willpower save, which is going to be our weakest save. And for spells, we're going to pick up Displacement. When you're going to be fighting a really tough fight, this can mean a difference between life and death because it basically equates to a 50% avoidance buff while this is up. Now, level 12 is a huge level for us because we're going to get the greater mutagen discovery. And so there's various combinations. The ones that you're most likely going to use is the strength and dexterity combination. You could potentially also do strength and constitution, but I recommend strength, dexterity, and again, it's going to increase your natural armor class. We're going to give you strength buffs, dex buffs, so it's really, really quite helpful. We're also going to pump another point in our strength from our stat points. And for spells, I like to pick up Restoration, especially on higher difficulty levels, but even on lower difficulty levels, you're going to have so many monsters that you're going to fight that are going to lower your ability damage. Now, yes, you can sleep to remove this, but you're not always going to be in a position where you can sleep or sleep often enough. So sometimes having a restoration spell ready to go situationally can make the difference between having a really, really tough time with an encounter and breezing through it. At level 13, the main thing is the feat of lightning reflexes. And again, it's in the incorrect spot here, but correct on the spreadsheet. +2 bonus on reflex saving throws. Again, we got to get those saving throws up because you are going to be kind of in melee combat. You're going to be getting targeted a lot by the enemies, especially on those higher difficulties. It's going to be really, really big. And spell-wise, we can go ahead and pick up spell resistance. So having a resistance to spells equal to 12 plus your caster level can be quite helpful. And in some cases, it can definitely mean the difference between getting annihilated by a major AoE spell and completely dodging the bullets. So very, very helpful. At level 14, we pick up the discovery Nauseating Flesh. And there's nothing, this is not too special, but there aren't really good options for you. So if it just happens that somebody bites you, they're going to have to do a fortitude save throw or be nauseated. Again, nothing to write home about, but probably the best option. And then for the spell, we do Stone Skill Communal. Now, this isn't the cheapest spell to cast because you actually have material components, 10 diamond dusts. On lower difficulty levels, like normal or less, you probably will never use this. But on higher difficulties, especially if we're going into big fights, you can kind of pre-buff of this. And that extra potential 150 hit points for a character can make all the difference between surviving an encounter and not. As you know, the encounters go hot and heavy in this game, so being able to survive that burst damage from the enemies initially can make the difference between winning and having to reload. At level 15, you're going to get improved lightning reflexes, and again, another +2 reflex saving throws, and that's again going to help you avoid those AoE attacks a little bit better. And here we pick up yet another very situational spell, but again, if you're going to be going into an encounter or you just reloaded an encounter that just slaughtered you, where you know you're going to be dealing with death spells, this is a great spell to kind of load up and have ready for the encounter. Now on to level 16, we're going to have another major step forward for this build when we unlock Grant Mutagen. So Grant Mutagen, we upgrade our natural armor class bonus to +6, and now you're going to have a +8 alchemical bonus to your strength. We'll do the 6 to dexterity and then 4 to constitution. So going to make us even more ethereal with our DPS armor class and also hit points going up and up. When it comes to stats, again, we will be continuing to pump strength. And for spells, you're going to pick up Legendary Proportions. And this is kind of a ridiculous spell. It makes you gigantic. So it makes you grow 2 sizes. You're not even going to really fit up on a map. Now for the spell, you're going to pick up Legendary Proportions. This spell is pretty ridiculous. It does require Dinosaur Bone. I mainly save this for harder encounters, and I precast this before I turn into a dragon because a lot of the stats do stack. Not everything does, but it does give you a +6 size bonus to strength, +4 size bonus to constitution, and a +6 form bonus to natural armor. And then you have damage reduction 10 adamantine. Now at 17, we are going to pick up Great Fortitude, +2 to all fortitude saving throws. Now this is probably the least used save from my experience. This is why we keep it for last, but you still don't want to have this low since you're going to be a frontline combatant. And for spells, we're only going to have our second real heal spell. So quite literally heal, a really amazing direct damage heal spell. And while you may not be a main healer, for spot healing in an emergency, this is a phenomenal spell. Now at 18, the discovery they're going to pick up is Infusion. This allows you to throw your elixirs and target other people, for example. I didn't find myself doing this very often. This is why I'm leaving it towards the end here, but you might find some use from it. For the spell, we have another situational spell, and that's True Seeing. So there are definitely some parts of the game where you're going to run into kind of invisible enemies and ones that have high concealment. So this can situationally be something that you load up. If, for example, you wipe out on an area that's too difficult and you realize, okay, this would help to bypass and lower the difficulty. All right. And then at level 19, we're going to get improved Great Fortitude. Again, buffing those fortitude saving throws, which is very helpful. And when it comes to spells, we'll pick up Walk Through Space. So this is the teleportation spell. And while in pencil and paper D&D and kind of Pathfinder campaigns, being able to teleport like this is really, really useful. Here, you're unlikely to actually use a level 6 slot for the spell, but it's better and more useful than your other options at this level. And then finally at level 20, you're going to pick up True Mutagen as your option. So this really buffs out your mutagen. +8 natural armor bonus to AC, 8 alchemical bonus to strength, dexterity, and constitution. Now again, because it's alchemical, this is going to stack with the dragon's size bonus to these stats, and with enhancement bonuses from like belts, for example. So very, very good, and all you're sacrificing is a -2, basically all your smart stats. And this is therefore very perfect for this kind of feral build. Now you're also going to get Cognitogen, and it's going to let you pick up Greater Cognitogen. And this is basically a mutagen, but for buffing intelligence, wisdom, and charisma. We don't really need it. This is why we left it to the very, very end, because we're not going to be using these. We're going to be using the melee one with all the martial stats to help us out. Not surprisingly, our final stat point will go into strength. And for the final spell, it's a bit anticlimactic, but we'll get Eye Bite. I don't foresee you ever using it, but that's what was kind of left over as an option. And so that is the progression of 1 to 20. Now we'll go ahead and take a look at the Mythic progression next. Now what I'm showing you here for the Mythic progression is basically your Mythic abilities, your Mythic feats. Now for your initial ascension, you're going to pick up Bit of Fun. I like the buffs that this provides, as we'll see in the walkthrough. But do note that regardless of whether you pick Angel or Demon or any of the other Mythic paths, at level 8, what's going to basically happen is that those are all the unique elements to those Mythic paths get erased, and it gets replaced with the specific features of the Golden Dragon. So here you're going to see those. What this basically means is as you're leveling up, you can pick whatever path you want, whatever feels kind of fun, whatever helps you temporarily. But just note that's going to be swapped away. But just note that it's all going to be temporary. Don't forget alignment-wise, the Golden Dragon is neutral, good. So keep that in mind. You will be forced into that alignment once you choose the Golden Dragon choice. And from what I've seen, you're not really penalized for playing evil, for example. But do note, when you are completing a quest to unlock the Golden Dragon, if you choose, for example, the evil solutions or choices, then you're going to fail those and basically lock out the Golden Dragon pathway. So make sure to keep that in mind. Now, final thing I want to highlight here on the spreadsheet is this little asterisk. So for Mythic level 4, you're actually going to start with extra Mythic ability Brutal Incarnate. That's going to make your natural attacks super buffed. But do note, once you kind of unlock Dragon, you're going to respec. And at that point, you're actually going to replace it with Mythic Power Attack, because you're going to have as a Golden Dragon a way to bypass. You're going to have a way to buff your natural attacks quite significantly, and you'll no longer need Brutal Incarnate. So that's why I put this note here. All right, now let's take a look at one by one the Mythic pathway level ups. So during Mythic level 1, I recommend Bit of Fun, because this is going to be providing you with a multi-use illusionary spell. Now at Mythic level 1, I recommend picking up Bit of Fun, because it's going to give you an ability that acts like Mirror Image, which is a really nice defensive spell. And then what I really, really like is the second part that we'll take a look at as well. That's quite powerful. Now, as far as your Mythic ability, Master Shapeshifter is amazing. You're going to now buff the stats of your shifts, and because you're gonna, as you level up on this character, have multiple animals you can shift into, you're gonna also be able to do it as many times as you want. For reference, this is going to start out with being able to shift into the wolf. Then you're going to have the option to go into a leopard. Then it's going to go ahead and go to a bear. Afterwards, you're going to have an option between a Smilodon, Shambling Mound, or a large worm. Alternatively, and what you will be choosing if you play this theme, is Dragonkind 1. So yes, as early as level 13, you're going to be transforming into a dragon. And then at level 15, you're going to be able to transform into Dragonkind 2, which is great. And then you're only going to have to wait a couple more levels, probably anywhere between level 16, 17, or 18. You're going to go ahead and unlock the Golden Dragon pathway, and you will transition neatly into transforming into the Golden Dragon. Now, at Mythic level 2, we want to pick up Iron Will Mythic. Will saves are the most common and probably some of the most important saves that you're going to have, especially story-wise once you get into Act 4. So getting this nice buff nice and early is going to be very, very helpful. I also love Creative Approach because it's going to give you a +3 circumstance bonus to all your skill checks. That is a huge buff. And because you have such high intelligence, you're going to be a bit of a skill monkey on this character, so this will go a long way. And then, of course, you have the traditional hard to kill that you get automatically, and you'll be able to summon a Will-O-Wisp, and that's going to stay even after you swap over to Golden Dragon. Now, Mythic level 3, we're going to get Abundant Casting, so cannot go wrong with 4 extra casts per day of level 1, 2, and 3 spells. These are your defensive spells. These are going to be your self buffs, your haste buff, and so forth. So this is going to be key. Now, don't forget, as I mentioned in the summary, you're going to start with picking up an extra mythic ability and pick up Brutal Incarnate, which is going to basically buff the damage penetration or the resistance penetration of your natural attacks. But as soon as you get a high level and you unlock the Golden Dragon, I immediately respec and I pick up Power Attack Mythic so that you can get a big boost in damage. At level 5, you're going to pick Improve Abundant Casting, and this is great. Now again, 4 extra spells at level 4, at level 5, and at level 6. And because you only get to cast up to level 6 spells, this basically covers you and makes you get a lot more out of your casting. And then at level 6, I actually like picking up Destructive Shockwave. When you are transformed, especially into a dragon, you're going to have a bunch of attacks, eventually 6 attacks. And so it's imminent, and you're bound to miss attacks. And whenever you do, having a nice strength bonus is huge. Now, most of your damage at high level will be coming from your damage strength modifier. So this is actually going to be a significant amount of damage, which is real nice. And then at level 7, we're going to be picking up the final normal mythic ability, and that's Thundering Blows. What's nice about this is, again, when you miss a melee attack, once per round, you're going to be doing a sizable AoE sonic damage to all enemies in 10 feet, within 10 feet. And sonic damage is definitely a damage type that is not as commonly resisted, so this will pay off in spades. Now, at level 8, you're going to unlock Gold Dragon Breath. Now, I want to point out that this is a much more powerful and useful Dragon Breath than what you will have used earlier. So, ever since you've been able to turn into a Dragon Form 1 and 2, you will have had access to Dragon Breaths, but they're very limited in their power as well as how often you can use them. I want to emphasize just how powerful the damage scaling here is. So it's character level plus half mythic ranks, D8s. So if your character is level 20, for example, and then your mythic rank here is 8, that would be 24 D8s. Again, holy damage, which is just about impossible to mitigate. And then what's great is enemies that get hit by this are going to also have penalties, negative penalties on all their rolls. And the kind of cherry on top here is that you're going to be able to use this quite often if you want to. There is a random element to it, so you could be waiting as little as 1 round or as many as 4 rounds. So that's between 6 and 24 seconds in game time. So very, very usable, very powerful. And then at this level, we also get the wall of text of Golden Dragon buffs. So we are going to start with immunity to poison, disease, fear, confusion, paralysis, and sleep. These are amazing. You're also going to get resistances to all energies equal to your character level plus half your mythic rank. So all of a sudden, this will start making you super, super tanky. Now the saving throw bonuses aren't going to really play a role here because your saving throws are going to be pretty solid. What is going to play a nice role is all your stats, all your dump stats, for example, that we drop down your charisma down to 7 upon level 1. Well, that's getting bumped up to a stat point of 14. And your hit dice are now also D12s. So you're going to notice a huge jump in health even without any buffs on. You'll notice here on my character, without any buffs and not in dragon form, I'm at 416 health. That's a huge amount of health for somebody that's kind of a hybrid caster. Now, any of your dump stats, like your charisma that was a 7 at first, is going to get bumped up to 14 here. And then your hit dice will go all the way up to a D12, so kind of like a barbarian. You're going to have a massive amount of health now. And you're not going to be big on offensive casting, so those spell dice for the attacks isn't going to be really that useful. But do note that all of your weapons now count as +5 weapons. If there's ever a time when you actually use weapons, remember you're going to be using natural attacks in dragon form generally. Now at level 9, you're finally going to get to transform into a dragon. This is when you're going to get that huge 10 size bonus to strength, 8 size bonus to constitution, 8 form natural armor bonus. Again, notice it's size bonus, so this is going to be different than the alchemical bonus from your mutagen. That's why they stack so well. You're going to get blind sense 60 feet, which is huge. And then, as mentioned earlier, you now have 6 attacks, and they're actually quite potent. You're also going to get 3 dragon feats, and there's so many creative ways you can use this. I mainly kind of went with the theme, that feral theme, to just buff all the kind of natural attacks. So I just happened to pick up Improved Critical for Claws. Now over here, this is actually a visual bug because you can't pick up the same thing twice. This is actually Improved Critical Bite, your bite attack. Unfortunately, there's no option for the tail swipe or the wings. And then I picked up Critical Focus so that you're more likely to confirm those critical hits. Now, again, these are kind of like the vanilla options. You can't really go wrong with them. When you crit, you have such gigantic modifiers to strength that this is going to do a humongous increase of damage with these increased multipliers. So very, very powerful, but you can be really creative and fun if you want to kind of mess around with this as well. Now the buffs to your natural state don't stop coming. I do want to point out both of these elements, a level 8 as well as a level 9, these will help you in and out of dragon form because you can transform in and out of it. But now you get immunity to mind affecting effects. Spell resistance now gets bumped up to 15 plus your character level and half your mythic rank. And here's the big one. So this entire time we had limitations because our base attack bonus didn't scale as well. As a hybrid class, you're going to notice here when we look at your physical martial progression, at level 20, we only have 3 attacks. While, for example, a fighter would have 4 attacks. And the first one would be plus 20, then plus 15, plus 10, and then plus 5. But we're basically missing a whole attack here. So what's really nice is at level 9, it states that if your base attack bonus is less than 15 plus mythic rank, you gain a bonus up to that number. Now do note, a normal human being without mythic progression, if you're a fighter which has got full BAB, a level 20 would have a BAB of 20. But here, you're going to get the 15 plus your mythic progression. So at level 9, that's going to be 24. and it's going to cap out at 25. So even though you're a hybrid caster, you're now going to be attacking way, way better as a superior form of a fighter, for example. So all the skills becoming class skills won't be as big of a deal for you, but in some of the other areas where you had low skill ranks, this is going to bump you up to 9 and eventually 10 ranks in every single skill. So if there happens to be some random check where you don't have it covered, this could help out. Also, the lowest any of your stats are going to be now is going to be 18, which is pretty much godly. And finally, the damage on your spells increases, but again, we don't really do offensive spells of this build, so it's not going to be as helpful. And then finally, the coup de grace, piece de resistance for this mythic path is at level 10 you get perfect soul. So you are now immune to all cold damage, fire damage, electricity, acid, energy drain, and negative energy. And then finally, all your damage is now holy damage, which is just bonkers. And then the final factor would be helpful if you were more of an offensive caster, because your spells will now do d10s of damage instead of d6s or d8s. But again, for this build, it's not going to be that useful. Now let's take a look at gear. You're not really going to be using any weapons because you're going to be using natural attacks. You could technically have a weapon for when you are out of transformation, but that's almost never going to be it since you can use your dragon's transformation as much as you want. Now for helmets, there's a lot of options. You could do something like Handband of Rigorous Training, upping your Wisdom +6 or something equivalent to increase your stats and therefore your resistance to some more. You could get something like Helm of Fearless Vanguard, an extra 5 health every round. That can help top you off. That's assuming you're taking any damage. And I know there's other helmets. I have one, I believe, on a different character on a different playthrough that kind of buffs your charge. So that can kind of help out as well. So anything thematic like that. For a cloak, you definitely want to get a Cloak of Resistance +5. That's pretty much, from my experience, the best option for this kind of tanky melee build. For rings, Ring of Protection line is great, whichever you can get, whatever the highest level. Ring of Guiding Star, I kind of like this one. I use this on a lot of my builds. So it'll give you +4 bonus on initiative. And whenever you land a hit against an undamaged enemy, and a lot of times you're going to be kind of frontlining it to begin those first hits, it's going to grant all your companions a +3 bonus on damage rolls for 1 round. What's funny is, for these dragon builds in general, I haven't really found a better bracer than the Engraved Lucky Bracers. And the main reason this is still useful, even though the bonus is that much, and it's worth 250 gold, is because it is a luck-based bonus to AC, as well as to reflex, will, and fortitude saves. So it stacks with things like your Cloak of Resistance and so forth, while most of the other elements are not going to stack. Now, if you find a really good bracer, do let me know in the comments below that you think would fit well for this dragon build. For the amulet, I absolutely love this Velexius Magnifying Amulet. +5 natural armor enhancement bonus, and then +2 to your highest current ability score. So this is very adaptive, and again, for us, it's going to bump our strength up. If you don't have this, just a +5 or +4 natural armor amulet is going to be just fine. Now, normally on this character, I don't wear any armor because your dex modifier is so high. Any armor you put on, you're going to be kind of gimping yourself. Now, this version of this build does not have a mage armor that they can cast on themselves. That is the biggest weakness this has compared to my other Golden Dragon build. The other one, you're going to be able to get that buffed out mage's armor, and it's going to be +14 to AC. Therefore, you kind of have to settle with another mage casting mage armor on you and then only getting +4. But a lot of the DPS benefits that you're going to be getting here is going to make up for that. And you're going to also have a secondary format of your natural armor that stacks because of that mutagen. So it's not going to be quite as big of a deficit, but just want to point that out. And then for a belt, you're the perfect character for a belt of physical perfection. Getting +4 to strength, dex, and constitution is just amazing. I don't know if there is a +6 version in this game, but if it is, you would obviously want to get that. And then the shirt is kind of optional. This one's kind of a joke that I love putting on my tanky characters because it's going to proc this effect whenever you're below 50 health. But again, by the time you get into kind of super tanky mode, you should never be dropping below 50 health. Now, I finally want to show you how you can self-buff pretty effectively here. Now, not everything is going to stack perfectly. There's going to be certain elements that don't stack, but I kind of like to cast them all here to show in case I miss anything. So you can cast these up. Some of them are going to buff your stats. And some will make you gigantic. And then finally, let's pop your mutagen and transform into a dragon. And check out the beauty. And no, you're not seeing things. This is the mirror image effect on you, but it looks quite awesome. I'll pause it so we can look at the stat line. And as you can see, your stats go through the roof. You're at almost 600 health, 54 strength, and again, you can get this higher, potentially if you get even better gear. Your armor class is 54. My other build, it's 69, so this one's technically slightly more squishy, but it kind of makes sense. This is kind of the feral variant, a little bit more reckless. Obviously, more DPS potential, a little bit more aggressive. Still has really nice saves here, as you'll see. And if we look at the attacks, it's absolutely bonkers. So if you look at the claws are 2d6 plus 50. And because we buffed them, they now crit on a 19 or 20. Your average damage is 52 to 62 per claw attack. We're talking about multi-attacks plus 46 to hit. You're going to have your bite that is also absolutely devastating, 2d8 plus 45. Same thing, we buffed it so it crits on a 19 or 20. The wing attacks are nothing to sneeze about. They only crit on 20, that's fine though. And then you also have the tail attack, but because it literally doesn't fit here. We kind of like broke the game here with so many natural attacks. So it is down there. It does a decent amount of damage again. And so all of this is going to be hitting every round. It is absolutely bonkers. Also want to emphasize you have a spell resistance of 40. So that is really, really good as well. Along with all your nutty immunities and then 25 resist across the board here. And let's not forget that adamantine 10 damage reduction for anything that actually gets past this. So again, even though this technically has less armor class than my other build, the damage profile is absolutely bonkers. And again, it's a really nice variant if you want to switch it up, and especially if you want to be a class skill monkey. So all of these skills you can get so decked out. So if you need a rogue alternative to find traps, to open boxes, to pass your knowledge checks, you can get that all done with this one character. Alright guys, so I hope you enjoyed this build and found it entertaining and helpful. Again, if you watched all the way through here, you're awesome. Thank you so very, very much. And if you want to continue to support my channel, make sure to like, subscribe, smash that notification bell to be notified when the next videos drop. And do leave your comments below. I'm always trying to learn to get better. I do this part-time, but I try to do my best and provide you with the best content as quickly as I can. That being said, guys, again, hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you guys in the next video.